Hi, I'm Zeb with Darling Dork, and today I'm reviewing Arctic Scavengers. This is a new card deck building game by Rio Grande Games, and I'm going to run through some of the basic components and some of the gameplay. So, what does the game come with? Well, it comes with a variety of different cards that you're trying to acquire. Outlined here, these are the various professions that you're trying to buy up. There is a junkyard of cards. These are tools. There are the contested resources. That's the center deck, which everybody is fighting over throughout the game. And then there are the building schematics. That's part of the expansion. I'll get into that in a little bit later. It comes with leader role cards. These are unique and grant whoever's using them a specific bonus during gameplay. What they are in effect, some bonus point cards. And then the starting decks. Now, what comes with a starting deck? 4 refugees, 1 shovel, 3 scavengers, 1 spear, and 1 brawler. Now that's the basics that everybody starts with. That's how we start the game. So, really quickly, to go over the basics of the cards, the scavenger is kind of a good template card for this. Up top here, you see the cost. There are 2 ways of paying the cost of a card: food or meds. I'll explain how you acquire both of them in a minute. And then this sidebar here denotes each of the abilities the card is capable of and how many points it's worth. So this top icon here, that indicates a draw action. There are 4 actions you can perform during your turn. You can only perform 1 of each in total. So if I had 2 scavengers, I could do a 2 draw action. I'd drop both of them and draw 2 new cards to replace them. There's dig. Dig allows you to sort through the junkyard to find cards. You draw however many, keep 1, and put the rest into the bottom. So if I dropped 3 scavengers using the dig action, I would draw 1, 2, 3 cards, pick the one I like, and put the rest under the bottom. There is hunt. Hunt is important because that's where you get food from. So 1 scavenger would give me 1 food. Food is then used to purchase or hire new mercenaries and professions to help me out. So if I had 1 food, congrats, I can buy myself another scavenger, because that's the cost. Others have a variety of combinations in meds. He is worth 1 fight in the skirmish phase. I will explain that in a little bit. And he is worth 1 point at the end of the game. These cards denote how many points there are, people there are, which is equivalent to how many points you get at the end of the game. Certain cards are incapable of performing certain actions. So, good example. The refugee, who is kind of weak and basically just a piece of meat in the frozen wasteland, he is only capable of digging and hunting. Notice he does not have a fight icon there. Doesn't matter if you give him a tool, he still cannot fight. He's very weak that way. How you get meds to pay for things? In the junkyard are items like the pill bottle. Grabbing pills. Grabbing pills allows you to get 1 med, which you could then spend in conjunction with food. These items don't carry over, so you can't hoard meds or food from round to round. You have to spend it in the round that you acquire it. What other important stats are there? The skirmish phase. So, at the end of the 3rd phase, each player will send any remaining cards he hasn't spent looking for stuff in the skirmish. How he does this, we allocate a certain number of cards from our hand, which is always 5, unless you draw up, and you say you're sending those cards to the skirmish. Then, when everybody has done this in secret, they then flip over and reveal. So in this case, so you can see, I have sent 1 brawler armed with a spear, which gives him a total fight of 4. There's also a refugee who, because he cannot fight or do much of anything, is basically standing on the sidelines, waving and cheering and hoping his friend comes home with something. Whoever has the highest fight then flips over the top card from the contested resources deck and then acquires it for themselves. So, for example, I got a grenade. Grenade gives me +3 fight, which makes me think of Steve Carell's character in Anchorman just wandering around a fight with a grenade screaming at the top of his lungs. Or you can acquire cards like the Field Crew, which is an amazing card. Gives you 2 dig, 2 hunt, 2 fight, and then is worth 4 points at the end of the game. That's the basics of this game. Once you're out of the contested resources, the game ends and everybody counts up how many points they have. It's fun, but kind of simplistic without the expansions. But thankfully, the base game that's being sold right now includes the expansions, and they add a little more flavor to the game. For example, there are the leader cards, which are, I find some of them hilariously dark. So, for example, the cannibal. Once per turn, you can trash a card from your hand for 3 food, which you then can spend on anything. Note that you can't combine the food with some food from another source because, as it turns out, human food and normal food don't combine very well. Or the Butcher. You can kill one of his tribe members to receive 1 food and 1 med a turn. Again, there's kind of a dark theme running throughout all the leader cards. The professions. You add a couple of important ones. One is the engineer. The engineer allows you to build new buildings. So when you can draw a building schematic, you may build it. So for example, well, really all the buildings accomplish the same thing. They allow members to be stored underneath them to be used at a later date. So for example, the bunker, you can put a certain number of tribe members in and then recover them at a later time. So if, for example, I draw a hand where I have 3 brawlers and I really want to win the next fight, I can put the 3 brawlers in here, recover them later, and then send them out to fight. Or there's a similar mechanism for the pharmacy. You can store a certain number of med cards underneath it and then draw them at a later time. There are the gangs. The gangs are fairly simple. They give you a certain number of points at the end of the game based on whoever has the most of a certain resource. So, for example, the Masons. At the end of the game, whoever has the most buildings acquires 5 points. Likewise, there's one for tools and one for meds, so on and so forth. That is actually the basic gist of the game right there. And overall, I like it. It does a few different things. I've heard people compare it to Dominion a lot. I actually don't think the Dominion comparison is especially apt. Yeah, you buy stuff and you put it into your deck and it comes out later, but that can be said of a lot of different games right now. There's a fair amount of player interaction compared to Dominion that I like. I think there could stand to be some more. I would like it if the skirmish felt higher stakes sometimes. There's no permanent cost to in getting yourself involved in a skirmish. If you have 4 refugees, yeah, you can bluff and send them to the skirmish, but it's probably not going to work. On the other hand, it does sometimes, and I think subsequent expansions will deepen the level of player interaction. Some cards, for example, like the Saboteur, they force a person when played to discard one of their opponent's tools. So you can screw with other people periodically throughout the game. In general, I would probably give this about a 7 out of 10. Once it gets more expansions and you have some more options in gameplay, I think it'll go up to an 8 or even a 9. I like it a lot. I suggest you give it a play. Thanks.